You know when you jump, you can't just stay up there, can you? Nope. You always come back down. But then you see those videos of astronauts and they're just floating around, totally weightless, like happy balloons. So what's the deal? Well, it all comes down to this secret invisible force. I mean, this thing rules everything. Not just our planet, but the whole universe. And the guy who finally cracked the code? Well, let's just say he was a bit of a grumpy genius. And his biggest breakthrough came from an apple. All right, so let's meet the man himself, Sir Isaac Newton. Look, if there was a Smart People Hall of Fame, this guy wouldn't just be in it, he'd be the team captain, the star player, and probably the coach, all rolled into one. He's an absolute titan of science. And get this, we're not just talking about one big idea. The guy was on another level. To even begin to describe how things like apples fall or how the moon orbits, he had to invent a brand new type of math. We call it calculus today. Oh, and on the side, he also built a game-changing telescope to see the stars better, and as we're going to see in a bit, he completely figured out what light is. But his story starts somewhere you'd never expect.
So Isaac was born way back in 1642, and his mom had a very simple plan for his life. You're going to be a farmer. Just one small problem. Isaac was an awful farmer. I mean, while the sheep were probably making a run for it, Isaac was totally lost in his own world, building these amazing little machines. Tiny windmills, super clever water clocks, sundials, you name it. He was obsessed with figuring out how stuff worked.
Luckily for all of us, his uncle noticed what was really going on. He saw that Isaac's brain was just wired differently. It was built for way bigger things than farming, so he sent him back to school. And that one decision, it literally put Newton on the path to changing the world. I mean, can you imagine if he'd stayed a farmer? We might not have rockets today. Seriously. So, Isaac heads off to the prestigious Cambridge University, right? But just as he's getting started, his studies get completely derailed. A horrible sickness swept through London, the Great Plague. It was so dangerous that they had to shut everything down, and that included the university. This meant Isaac had to pack up and go home for 2 whole years. Now, for most people, that would be a huge setback. But for Newton, it became what's known as his miracle years. Seriously, this time, stuck at home all by himself, turned out to be the most creative and revolutionary period of his entire life. Kind of wild, right? And yeah, it's during this time back at home that we get to the most famous part of his story. I'm pretty sure you've heard this one. It involves Newton, a quiet garden, and of course, an apple. So the legend goes, he's just sitting there, and he sees an apple fall from a tree. Now, here's what's so incredible about this moment. Billions of people throughout history had seen things fall, but only Newton stopped and asked the real question, wait a minute, why down? Why does it always go straight down? Why not sideways? Or why not up? And that simple question led to this mind-blowing realization. He figured the Earth itself must be acting like some kind of giant invisible magnet. It's constantly pulling the apple and you and me and everything else straight toward its center. And he gave this mysterious force a name, gravity. Okay, but this next part, this is what took him from just being a genius to being an absolute legend. He looks up from the little apple on the ground, all the way up to the moon in the sky, and he thinks, if this gravity thing can pull an apple down, could it be the exact same force reaching all the way out into space and pulling on the moon? And the answer was a huge, universe-changing yes. It's like this beautiful cosmic dance between two things. So let's break it down. First, you've got the pull, right? The Earth's gravity is always tugging on the moon, trying to pull it straight down, just like it did with the apple. But there's also the motion. The moon is also moving sideways, like really fast. So when you put those two together, you get the orbit. The moon is literally always falling towards the Earth, but because it's also flying sideways so fast, it just keeps missing. It's basically in a constant state of falling around our planet. How cool is that? But Newton wasn't done. I mean, discovering universal gravity would be enough for one lifetime, right? Nope. During that same time off from school, while everyone else was just trying to get by, he decided to tackle another ancient puzzle. What exactly is light? See, back then, pretty much everyone thought that white light, like sunlight, was pure, basic, the default, and that colors were something that objects just sort of added to the light. But Newton had a hunch that everyone had it completely backwards. So what does he do? He runs this amazingly simple experiment. He completely blacks out his room, makes one tiny hole in a window shutter to let in just a single sliver of sunlight, and then he puts a glass prism right in its path. And what happened? Boom, a perfect, brilliant rainbow splashed across his wall. He just proved it. White light isn't pure at all. It's actually a mashup of every single color of the rainbow. Okay, so we've covered the universe-altering discoveries. Now let's get into some of the weird and wonderful fun facts about the man behind the science. All right, so there's this story, and who knows if it's totally true, but it's a great story, that Newton had a little dog named Diamond. And one day, Diamond supposedly knocks over a candle, right onto a stack of papers that held 20 years of his research. It all went up in flames. Can you imagine? And Newton's reaction? He didn't freak out. He apparently just looked at the dog and said, "Oh, Diamond, you little know what you have done." And hey, you know that famous apple tree, the one that started it all? It's real. And what's absolutely incredible is that you can still go visit it in England today. The tree is over 400 years old, and get this, it still grows apples. It's a living, breathing piece of science history. So why is all this stuff from so long ago still such a big deal? Because Newton's work wasn't just some abstract theory. The very same laws of motion and gravity that he worked out, sitting in his garden, were the exact same rules that NASA engineers used 300 years later to plot a course to the moon. Think about that. From a simple falling apple to a human footprint on the moon. That's the power of Newton's legacy. You know, Newton completely changed our understanding of the universe, all because he wasn't afraid to ask a simple question: why? So I'll leave you with a question of your own to think about. If you could flip a switch and turn off gravity for just 5 minutes, what is the very first thing you would do? Let that one simmer for a bit.